When people talk about safety planning, they usually picture something very dramatic. They imagine someone packing a bag and running in the middle of the night, and they imagine a single moment where everything just clicks. But most safety planning isn't dramatic at all. It's slow and quiet, and it's you trying to keep yourself steady while someone else keeps shifting the ground under you. Now, safety planning gets even more complicated when addiction is in the mix, because now you're not just tracking someone's moods or their control, you're tracking their use, their withdrawals, their binges, their come downs, their apologies, their threats, their promises, their anger, their fear of losing you, their fear of losing access to their substance, and sometimes their fear of losing control over you. Now, if you've lived this or you're living it, you probably don't realize that you're already doing safety planning long before you even call it that. You're changing how you walk into the house, you're watching the time of day, you're adjusting your responses, you're avoiding certain topics, you're keeping an eye on how much they've had, not because you want to babysit them, but because you're trying to predict the next few hours. Yeah, that's safety planning. And when addiction is part of the abuse, your nervous system is already working overtime. You've been monitoring danger for so long that you probably don't even notice that you're doing it. You don't really need someone to tell you to trust your gut because you're doing that already. The problem is that your gut has been gaslit, punished, or ignored so many times that it feels risky to act on it. So let's get clear on what safety planning looks like when the person harming you is also the person using. It means that you learn the patterns of their use, not because you want to enable them, but because you want to survive them. If they get more unpredictable after midnight, you notice that. If they get more controlling after work, you notice that too. If they use your reactions as fuel, you pull your energy back. If they pick fights right before they leave the house, that's information. And these patterns help you make decisions. Safety planning also includes understanding the reality of withdrawal. Some abusive partners become more volatile when they're sober because they lose the numbing effect of the substance. So you might see the most aggressive behavior when they're trying to get clean. This is confusing because everyone tells you sobriety makes everything better, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes sobriety exposes the part of them that it was always there. And at this point, we probably are blaming ourselves. We tell ourselves we should be more supportive, more patient, more understanding, but we're not dealing with addiction alone here. We're dealing with addiction plus the pattern of control, and those two together create a situation that cannot be fixed through love or emotional labor. Safety planning in this kind of relationship also means looking at the ways they use substances to control you. They might pressure you to use so you're easier to manage, or accuse you of using when you're not to justify monitoring you. They might even hide substances in places that implicate you and sabotage your sleep so you're exhausted and easier to manipulate. They probably swing between crying and threatening depending on what keeps you near them. So with all of these things in consideration, this is what you need to fit your plan to your reality. This might mean keeping small pieces of information in your head instead of writing them down. It might mean storing important numbers under different names in your phone. It might mean keeping a few items in your car. It might mean having a safe phrase with a friend that sounds like a normal sentence. It might mean having a plan for the days when they are withdrawing. It might mean knowing where you can go if things escalate. And it might mean documenting what's happening in a way that doesn't put you at risk. Now, you might think that safety planning is only for leaving, but it isn't. Safety planning is for staying. It's for preparing, for surviving, for making sure that you don't lose yourself while you're navigating someone else's chaos. No one gets to judge what safety looks like for you. You also need to know that most systems will not see the full picture the first time you tell them. When addiction is part of the abuse, the story gets really messy. Professionals sometimes latch on to the addiction part and miss the control part. They see substance use and assume everything harmful comes from that. And then you're stuck trying to explain that the worst harm happens when the person is sober, or that their manipulation is deliberate and doesn't come only when they're intoxicated, or that the fear you live with doesn't go away when they enter treatment. This is why your own record of events matters. Not paragraphs or full journals, just simple anchors. what day it happened, what was said, what the pattern looked like. It's not like you're collecting evidence for court, you're collecting clarity for yourself. If you ever need it for professionals, then you'll have it. Safety planning also includes preparing for how you respond under fear. People talk about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn like they're personality traits, but they're not. They're survival responses. And if you shut down and go quiet when they escalate, that's your body protecting you. Or if you become overly agreeable, that's your system avoiding danger. If you leave the room without thinking, that's your instinct. None of these responses mean that you're weak. They mean that you're trying to survive. And when you understand your own reactions, your safety plan becomes way more realistic. If you freeze during threats, your plan shouldn't rely on you speaking boldly. And if you fawn to de-escalate, your plan shouldn't be built on confrontation. Safety planning is not about being brave, it's about being effective. Now, the last part of safety planning in the intersection of addiction and abuse is preparing for what happens when you set boundaries. Most people in these relationships learn very quickly that boundaries create backlash. The person may cry, rage, threaten relapse, self-harm, threaten you, or collapse in front of you. It might even be a time where you are most unsafe. Those reactions are part of the control, and they are not signs that you're doing something wrong. The hardest part of safety planning is accepting that their reactions are not your responsibility, only your safety is. Now, I'm not trying to cause any fear with this. I'm just trying to bring some clarity that when you understand the patterns, when you understand how addiction and control work together, you make decisions from a different place. You stop making decisions from a place of panic and more from a place of awareness, and that awareness becomes the foundation of whatever comes next for you.